So sorry everyone for this technical audio problem. I hope everyone can hear me now, and we will continue the session again, the webinar. So again, as a recap, again, as we discussed briefly in the beginning, this is the key feature that Aria allows you through or via this new module to integrate with the carriers. Next slide, we'll talk briefly about the key features that the API web service technology enables. So as we mentioned briefly, it enables a real-time integration with the carrier system, and this is actually a good feature to prevent using the old traditional desktop applications or the batch processing, which will cause which used to cause usually a delay or processing the shipments only at the end of the day. So now via the new web service, this is enabling a real-time integration. At any time you want to process a shipment, this can connect directly to the UPS or FedEx and process the shipment information. No need to have a separate desktop application, so Aria is actually integrated from the back end, and it connects directly to the UPS system directly and process the shipment and the tracking number for you. The third feature or the third advantage is ability to retrieve the archived shipping label images. So even if the UPS or FedEx system does not give you access to all the shipment or to all the tracking numbers, Aria database still will have those tracking numbers and those shipping label archived in a database, and you can return or you can retrieve to them at any time. And finally, retrieving the freight charges instantly and directly from the carrier system, UPS or FedEx. And this, of course, will be based on the up-to-date freight rates and charges, so there is no need to update freight rates and so on, since it's online and it's Aria is integrating with the carrier's system directly via the new online service. Next slide, we will talk about the major carriers that Aria have added for that module, the carriers integration. So now we support integration with UPS, with FedEx, and with the with the US Postal Service via Envigia.com, which is a third-party provider for the US Postal Service shipping services. So this is, of course, it will be a big advantage for Aria users, since in the past we had only a UPS integration via the traditional UPS World Ship. Now we support both FedEx and USPS. Now we'll start talking about the detailed features of this carrier's integration module. The first feature is the ability to save the carrier's setup information one time in the beginning, and then the system will be able to retrieve this credential and login information at any time you process the shipment. So by looking at the screen in Aria, I'm going to show you this feature in details. The setup carrier is actually added under the master data under setup carrier. And in this screen you can choose the carrier that you would like to save the credential for, either UPS or FedEx or USPS. And the screen will show up the relevant information for that carrier, like the status, the license key, the username, and the password. And here just one hint about how the process works. In the beginning, once you are ready to implement this system, you will need to register with either UPS or FedEx to request a license number to be associated with your account at UPS or FedEx. This is a simple process that you can go through via their website, either fedex.com or ups.com. There is a section for registration to their web service, and once the registration process successfully is processed, they will provide you an access license number, a username, and password to start using this service. Same goes for FedEx or UPS. The only thing that for FedEx there is a meter number, and this is as well provided by the registration process. Once you go to FedEx website, you register your account, use the new web service, they will give you all this information along with the credential and the access license key. This screen is also able to keep track of the totals of cartons shipped, total weight shipped, total freight charges up to date from the beginning till to date, so you can know for UPS how many cartons you shipped recently to date and how many weight and freight charges are billed to UPS. So this is what goes for the carrier setup, and there is another actually setup before we go on to the next slide. There is a setup related to the ship via, which is the regular ship via codes that you enter from the company setup from the codes section. And related to that carrier integration, there is now new parameters or setup parameters that need to be verified and revised for the carrier integration to work successfully. So let us take here one of the ship via codes that I've created. Under the related fields section, there have been new parameters added to support the UPS or the FedEx integration. So now the carrier service type has been revised to support the correct UPS carrier codes like UPS ground, UPS next day, second day air, etc. So all the new and the correct service codes have been added to this drop down to enable you set up the ship via correctly and link it to the right service type for the carrier. There is also a UPS billing option, and this was there from before, but it is crucial to remember to revise or verify that billing option, since this information is transferred to the carrier system, and it's important to set it up correctly. Either you are billed to a third party if you are using a prepaid, or if you are using a consignee billing. So you have to choose the right UPS billing. Then there is a carrier type. So for each ship via, you can now link to the proper carrier category, either it's a UPS, FedEx, or USPS. And finally, there is another parameter has been added to the ship via related fields, which is include freight charges, either yes or no. And that parameter simply either enables the Aria invoice sales order screen to add the freight charges received from the carrier, or to omit the freight charges and do not include it on the charges tab in the invoice screen. So if this parameter is set up to yes, Aria will include the freight charges retrieved from the carrier system, UPS or FedEx, and will add to the invoice. If not, if this parameter is no, then the freight charges will be omitted and it will be only accrued to either the prepaid account or to the third-party billing account. So we'll move now to the next section of the presentation, which is actually how to process a shipment and the available methods of processing the shipment information between Aria and the carrier system, either UPS, FedEx, or USPS. So this slide is actually summarizing the key features that are achieved by this new integration. First thing is retrieving the ship to name and the ship to address from the order automatically, so there is no need to retype the ship to address or the ship to information again. Everything will be pulled up from the sales order. Ability to retrieve the service type based on the selected ship via code. Retrieve a default package type, which can also be set up as a default in the codes section. Retrieve the package weight and package dimension based on the package type selected, and retrieve the third-party billing account number from the customer master if you are using a third-party account number. So let me show you this part first, specifically related to the third-party billing account number. We have added also a new feature in the customer master screen. So let me go backward to the master data, to customer inquiry. So let me pull up one account here. So now in the options menu in the customer master, we have added an option to enter the carrier account number. And this is, I'm sure many of our customers have requested this recently, especially if they are dealing with third-party billing. So they do need to have some place to save the third-party billing account information by customer. And that's how we handle this issue. So now from within the customer master screen, you can go to the carrier's account information and you can set up a USPS account number, FedEx account number, or UPS account number that will serve as the third-party billing account associated with that customer. And the integration process itself is gonna read this information whenever you use a third-party billing, and the account number will be passed over to the UPS or FedEx system to use for billing. So now we'll talk about the different methods available to process a shipment and send it to the carrier system to create or to process a tracking number and receive back a shipping label. Aria supports two types of processing, either single processing or batch processing, and both of them, the results are the same. It's just a matter of you have to evaluate the volume of business and whether you need just to print labels for only one order, one carton, or you have several orders during the day and it could be much more efficient to process them in batch depending on the volume of sales orders that you want to process on that day. There is also ability to process the shipments and send it to the carrier system either by sales order transaction, by pick ticket transaction, or by invoice transaction. So let us now go to see the screens related to this batch processing or single processing process, and we'll focus on the key features of each screen, either you are processing in a single processing mode or in a batch processing mode. So in this slide we are going to talk and display and demo for everyone the screens that integrate with the carrier's system from Aria, either sales order, invoice, or pick ticket as we discussed. The key features here are the ability to print a label in test mode only. If you don't want a real billable label, you can print a test mode label just to see how the label fits on your printer and to make sure the label format is correct and so on before you print the real label. There is ability to choose to verify the address before printing the label, and this verification of the address is done by the carrier system itself to make sure the street address is correct, and if there is any error in the address, it will alert you and it will give you an error log and prevent sending that shipment to the carrier if there is any address problem. There is ability to request either a shipping label alone or a shipping label and return label, or both of them together. So for example, if your business requires to associate a return label with the carton in case if the customer want to return the merchandise, we have this feature to allow you print the shipping label that will be affixed to the carton, and in the same time you can print a return label to be included with the merchandise in case if the client would like to return the merchandise so they can use this return service label. Also, there is ability to print either a standalone label, which is the regular shipping label that prints on a 4x6 label format, or you can print it integrated with a packing list form, so you can benefit from having a small packing list associated with the label. So this way you can include this packing list form with the merchandise, and of course affix or stamp the label on the cart. Next feature is ability to void shipment or cancel a tracking number if any error happen and you do not want to ship that specific carton. If it didn't go out the door yet, you can still void the shipment and void the tracking number that you have just created, and this will not be charged against your UPS account in case if it's voided before the pickup of the real merchandise. Final key feature is the real-time tracking for each carton, and here we can actually connect directly to the UPS or FedEx website using the tracking number, and this way you can track the shipment and see the current status of that specific tracking number, if it's delivered, if it's delayed, or where it stands exactly. So now let me show you that on from the screen standpoint or the user interface. The two methods of processing the shipment from Aria to the carriers system is done from the sales order allocation. And the first method is the single processing. This is done via the carrier integration screen under transaction sales order allocation module. In that screen, you can pull up the shipment by any of the three types as we briefly mentioned, either by pick ticket number, by sales order number, or by invoice. So Aria now gives you a flexibility to decide at what level or at which transaction type you would like to send the information to the carrier system and receive back a tracking number and a shipping rate. So let us say if I choose to process by order, then I can select the order number that I'd like to ship and process the label for. The system automatically will know which carrier is used, because remember that there is a ship via code associated with that sales order. So Aria knows already all the information. Aria knows that this is going UPS, it's going via UPS ground, and the related package associated with that by default will come up as well for you if you don't want to change it. If you want to change it, then you can change the package type as needed for that specific shipment or order. Everything else that was already entered on the sales order, like the ship to name and the ship to address, will flow automatically from the sales order data and will populate in that screen, minimizing, if not eliminating completely the data entry. So no need to re-enter anything as for the ship to name or the ship to address. Everything is populated from the related sales order, as well as the service type is gonna populate by default from the related ship type. Everything here will come based on the setup of the related customer. So again, if you are using a third-party billing, this account number will come up by default from the related account code. So if you every time, if let us say you ship to Kohl's online orders and there is a dedicated account for the billing purpose associated with Kohl's business, so you can set that account up on the customer master and it will retrieve automatically here without a need to memorize it or type it every time. Finally, you can click on the cartons button, and here you will see the detailed cartons related to that shipment. Either it's by sales order, by pick ticket, or by invoice. And the good thing that here Aria will determine the number of cartons based on the packing list. So if you do have a packing list for that sales order, the system automatically will create number of cartons equals to the number of cartons on the packing list. If not, it will by default create one carton for that sales order or pick ticket, and then you can add or remove cartons as you need directly on the fly from that screen. So if you click new, the system will simply let you add a new carton to that specific sales order without a need to create a packing list first. So now before we process this shipment, some of the key features available in that screen is ability to print a shipping label only or return label or both. So if you just want the shipping label, which will be affixed to the carton going or will be picked up by UPS or FedEx, you can choose shipping label. If you want a return service label, you can choose that option. If you want to print or generate both at the same time, you can choose both, and that means the system will generate both the shipping label and the return service label at the same moment, and you can have them printed and associated with the carton. You can also choose, if you are printing a shipping label, you can choose to print it individually or you can print it with a packing list format. Furthermore, you can check here to generate a bill of lading, and this could be a good feature in case of EDI customers. Of course, providing that the related sales order has a packing list, then the system can generate the bill of lading based on the packing list. If not, and if it's a manual sales order and no need for a bill of lading, you can keep that option unselected. And finally, you can check to validate the address or not to validate the address. If validate address is checked, then the system, before processing the shipment with UPS or FedEx, it will check the address line 1 and make sure the address information is correct. So now once you choose your preference for that specific order, let me change this back to include both the shipping label and the return label. Now you are ready to proceed the shipment. You click here, and now the system connects to the carrier system online, either UPS, FedEx, or Indigia, and it will simply generate a tracking number and return back the shipping label for you to print along with all the related information, the ship from, the ship to, the zip code, the UPS tracking number, and so on. So this label is actually generated by the UPS system and returned directly online to Aria and will be associated or will be attached to that sales order. If you choose to print a return service label, then the system, right after printing the shipping label, it will generate and print the return service label, so you can have a batch for the shipping label and another batch for the return service, in case if your business requires to associate a return service label with the merchandise. Okay, so this is actually the image of the return service label, and everything on the label is gonna be also generated based on the ship to address that came from the sales order or the big ticket, so no need to enter any data. The ship to and the ship from is already populated. The service type, UPS ground, UPS next day, air, etc., and the tracking number for that return service label. So as you can see, this function is actually enabling you to generate the tracking number and print the label directly from Aria interface without having to go back and forth between different applications. It's just connected directly from behind the scene to the carrier system and return back the tracking number, the freight charges, and the label image for you to print. So going back now to our slide, as we mentioned in the beginning, there is ability to process the shipment in using a single processing method or batch processing method. So now we'll discuss the batch processing, and this is done also from the sales order allocation module from print integrated packing list / carrier label option. And the main feature about this interface that it opens up a selection criteria, or what we call it an Aria option grid. And this option grid will allow you to choose the criteria for the transaction numbers that you would like to process. So you can choose what carrier you want to process, is it UPS, FedEx, or USPS. So this way you can eliminate the order selection to only that carrier. You can select by customer account number, by enter date, start date, complete date, etc. All these are parameters or filter criteria that allows you to narrow down your search criteria for the orders needed. Furthermore, you can go directly to the sales order number and list and specify the range of sales order numbers that you would like to process. So you can select one or many, as you can see, and this would be a way to batch process the shipment and send it directly to your carrier without having to select one by one. Other features available in that interface is the ability to eliminate orders with tracking number. So this way, if you say orders without tracking number only, meaning that the system will give you the sales order that are not yet processed. If you say include orders with tracking number or no for that option, then that means that any order that have a tracking number would still show up as a result of this search criteria, and you can reprint a label for orders that are generated already. So now let us continue on what we have here. This is the option for verify the address or print it as is, and again verifying address will work only on the address line number 1. If you choose not to verify the address, the UPS system would still automatically verify the ship to zip code and state and city and make sure it's valid information. Next parameter is to print a test label, and if you choose yes to that parameter, then the system will generate just a test label. It's non-billable and it's not going to be a real label. It will be just a test label to check the printer and so on. Print, this is the option similar to the single processing interface, and it allows you here to print shipping label only, return label, or both the shipping label and the return label. By the way, if you choose none, the system will still connect to the carrier system, generate a tracking number and return a label, but it will be saved in the database without printing. It will be just create the tracking number and the label and save it for you so you can print it at a later time. If you would like to print the label right away, then you can choose one of the other two options, either print shipping label, return label, or both. And finally, the label format, if you would like to print label only, which is the standalone 4x6 label, or if you would like to print the label along with the packing list, this is also another format that I'm going to show it to you, which will show you the label along with the packing list. So let us now proceed and see what we'll get. So now we'll get all the results of the criteria that we selected, and you still have the ability to include or exclude some orders from the results. So if, let us say, you selected 10 orders and you are ready to ship 9 of them only, so you can uncheck the order that is not ready to ship and keep the others selected. This screen is typically like the single processing screen, so it collects all the information about the order, the ship to name, ship to address, the carrier service type, the package code, the package width, weight, and dimension, the billing account number, etc., etc. So once you are ready to proceed, the system will scan the entire range of orders and will connect to the carrier's web service and will get you back the tracking number or the shipment label number, shipment label image. Again, as I mentioned, if there is any address validation error, the system will alert you before it goes further and process the tracking number. So this way you can correct any address information. So this error log indicates for you that there is an address validation error on some sales order. So you have to go back to that sales order and see what is the problem, correct the address, and come back to print the shipping label. So now, providing that I corrected the error, and once I come back, the system will retrieve the correct ship to address. Now the system will go and print the related shipping label, and since we choose here to print an integrated packing list, so the system will show up the label on the left side and the packing list on the right side. And this is, by the way, it's a regular standard letter size paper, so it just will have a perforation, or it will have a special paper that you can detach the label and affix it to the carton, and at the same time you'll have the other portion of the packing list, and this can be enclosed with the merchandise or with the carton. So here the system simply retrieved all the shipping label for each order and will give you the shipping label along with the integrated packing list. So that's basically how the interface, the integration interface works. If some of you, now actually the system is still processing the return service label, as you may notice. So now this batch of labels are actually the RS, or the return service. So if you chose that option in the selection grid, then the system will print the return service label that will be associated with each carton, with each shipment. So now, if you would like, or if you would rather print a single label or a standalone label and you do not need the integrated packing list, you still can do that. So from within the same interface, you can select your sales order criteria, and you can select to print the standalone label format, which is in that case would be printing label format, would be label only. So if you choose label only, that means it will print the regular 4x6 shipping label. Everything else will work the same. If you want to generate bill of lading, if it has a packing list and you would like to generate a bill of lading, you can choose yes. If no, if it's a manual order and no need for a bill of lading, you can elect not to generate bill of lading. Then everything else in the interface will work the same. When you proceed to get the label, the system will print a standalone label on the regular 4x6 format. So this can be sent to a barcode printer with the correct label size. Again, it's a standard label format, 4x6. Alright, so now we are going to move on to the last step, or to the last key feature actually, which is the ability to track the cartons directly from Aria and see what is the current status of the shipment. So from any interface, either the single processing or the batch processing, once you select your order number or pick ticket or invoice, whatever, you can go to the cartons button, and then you will see a list of all the cartons that have been processed via UPS or FedEx, depending on the carrier, and you will see the tracking number that has been generated. One of the very powerful tool here, that you can directly click on the tracking number, and that will simply go directly to the UPS website and pass this tracking number information to UPS system to let you know, or to further see what is the status of this shipment for that tracking number. So if this tracking number is valid, of course the UPS system will translate it and will give you the related information about the tracking number, whether it's delivered or not, when it was delivered, and so on and so forth. So this is, as you can see, it's from one interface from within Aria. You can go to the related tracking number either click it or click track shipment. Both will do the same function, and then it will open up UPS website or FedEx website to give you more information about this tracking number. So here, for example, this is a real tracking number, and now the UPS system have retrieved more information and can give you status update about that tracking number directly from the UPS system. All right, so this is all are very good tools to let you have handle or track your shipments directly from one single interface from within Aria. The final point that I'm going to talk about today is the proof of delivery report, and this is also a good tool to keep track of your merchandise and the related tracking number generated by the carrier. This report is available now under Output Accounts Receivable Proof of Delivery Report. Simply, this report, after the fact that you process a shipment with FedEx or with UPS, the system will save in the database, will save the tracking number associated with each invoice, and you can select the report by any of these information like the invoice range, the account number, the invoice date, etc. And from there you will get a report that will link the invoice number to the associated tracking number. So let me run a sample here. Let us say I want all the invoices shipped the last 2 weeks for specific carrier, for UPS ground, for UPS next day air, etc. So you can furthermore fine-tune your criteria by the carrier service type. Once you preview the report, the system will collect the data and will give you the tracking number associated to each invoice. So this way you can use that as a proof of delivery, or in case of any dispute with the customer, you can print that report and that will give you an idea what is the invoice number, what is the related service type it was shipped by or shipped via, and the tracking number received from UPS or FedEx, etc. So this is very good tool for everyone to also keep a history of the tracking number related to the invoice and related to the sales order number, and can be used as a proof of delivery in case of any inquiry from your customer to know whether or not the merchandise was shipped and what was the tracking number associated with it. Okay, so I think I covered all the topics planned for today. I'm gonna now open the discussion for any questions or for any relevant topics that you guys might need to discuss. So I'm gonna unmute the microphone, and if anyone have any specific question, please text or type it on the chat board, and I will be able to see it and reply to everyone. Hello? Okay, I'm not sure if there's still an audio problem. But anyway, if anyone has any question, please feel free to send it to us. I didn't see anything on the chat, so I guess no questions. So thank you everyone for attending, and if you are interested further to know about this module, please contact our sales department. We'll be glad to let you know more about it, or what is the implementation process takes. Okay, thank you everyone, and have a good day.